Okay, cool. I hope you.
Yes.
Great. Here we go. Okay, and you can go mute off
I'm
every platform.
juggling. I'm juggling a bunch of
Yeah,
different
you're good. You're
devices
good.
right
You can go mute. I just want to
now.
bring Damon Demond to meet Dre. But Dr. Janie
Hello,
Lacey,
Dre.
what a great session. Let's give the Clubhouse audience. Anybody want to unmic, say your name, and just say, "Hey, Dr. Janie," and say your name is, and talk to Dr. Janie Lacey and her guests as we wrap up the end of this amazing segment. I'll pause. I'm going to try Dr. Janie to pause for 4 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. And again, Clubhouse side, Twitter Spaces aside, we have not forgotten you. You are fully a part of this program, but we always want to give you space, especially towards the end of our segments, to jump in. And I'll do it one more time. Anybody on the Clubhouse side want to say hi to Dr. Jenny Lacey? And if not, it's okay. Or Demond, her guest.
It's Mary Lynn.
Mary Lynn, the mic is yours. Go.
Check.
And just mute yourself across platforms, Mary Lynn. And I'll bring you back down, Dre, so you can test a bit. Oh, no. I'll keep you there, Dre, so you can test a bit. But Mary Lynn, the mic's yours. Talk to us.
I just want to make sure I wasn't causing some feedback. Dr. Janie, I'm not hurt that it is no longer Therapy Thursday, but Mindset Monday. You guys are killing it. And teamwork makes the dream work. So loving it, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. And Dre, what you do want to do, Dre, unless it causes problem for you, just mute yourself on the Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces side. We're bringing that feed through here. But Dr. Jenny Lacey, first of all, Demond, pleasure to meet you. Thanks for being here. What a great segment. But Dr. Jenny Lacey, please, the show is still yours. I was just jumping in to get any Clubhouse feedback, Twitter. But take us out. What do you want to wrap us up with? What a great segment you've had today. Please take it away.
Yep, absolutely. So I want to go around to our panel and even Dre. Hello, Dre. Good morning. Glad that you are here. But I want to start with our special guest, Demond. I mean, what would be some of if you had to summarize in 10 seconds what you want people to take away with how they can develop a champion's mindset, a winning mindset from your own personal experience? I mean, what can you share with us? And then we'll have Monica and Stars do the same.
Basically, have the mentality to push through. Because believe it or not, successful is contagious. Once you get over that first hurdle, successes continue to come to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Demond. We certainly enjoyed you being here with us and being part of our special co-host team on this kickoff, and we hope to have you back. So, Stars, the same question. I mean, what are some 10 seconds from our conversation? I mean, what do you want people to take away?
Yes, 10 seconds. My key takeaway is your vibe is your tribe, your vibration. Make sure that you're constantly surrounding yourself with amazing people, because that's going to fuel you and make you a better person, and then you can change the world. There you go.
Thank you, Stars. You can change the world. And Monica.
Champions are accountable to their future selves. You got to decide who is your future self and act as if you are that person today.
Love it. Love it. Monica makes me think of Les Brown's quote, hell on earth is meeting the person you could have been. No, we want to be that person. Well, I certainly appreciate you all joining us, Demond, because when I hear your conversation, I think about what are the common things that athletes do to win championships. I hear developing and maintaining a strong work ethic, staying focused on their goals, having a positive attitude, maintaining good physical health. That's important. Following the advice of coaches and trainers, that's the team as well, and continuing to learn and hone in on your skills and utilizing strategies in competition that are led by example, both on and off the field. So thank you so much for joining us, Demond, and we hope to see you in the future. And Ramon, let's bring in our next athlete.
Indeed, Demond, thank you. I'm going to bring you down. I'm going to bring up Dre. Demond, nice to meet you. Dr. Jenny Lacey, what a great job. Indeed, Dre Baldwin, you're going live now. Oh, that's right. Dre is streaming too.
Yeah, I'm talking to my IG audience and letting them know it's happening.
So, Dre, what did you think about that? Dr. Jenny Lacey had a athlete, as you are, Dre, just for 5 seconds here, chat a little bit, and talked about champions mindset, perseverance, keep going on, etc. You know this. Talk to Dr. Jenny. You know this aspect from your experience, Dre.
Yeah, I didn't hear the whole thing. I
That's
only heard pieces of it. I was kind of getting my stuff in order right there. But yeah, absolutely. The great thing about sports as it parallels the business is that showing up every day, doing the work, dealing with setbacks. Not every shot's going to go in. There's so many parallels between what we do, especially in the entrepreneurship world and the professional world. And this is why sales companies and professional organizations, they like to recruit athletes out of college to come work for them, even if they're not going to play a sport. Because of the discipline that we have to have. We're used to being coached. We know what it means to organize a schedule, showing up every day. And we understand that sometimes we're going to lose, sometimes we're going to win. And those are things that everybody needs, no matter what you do in life.
I love it. I love it. Dr. Janie Lacey, one more time, if you don't mind, just tell us who you are, what you do. Again, we have, I always get the numbers confused, 27,000 or 27 million. I can't know the amount of viewers we have here. But Dr. Janie Lacey, one more time, tell us who you are, how we can reach you as we get ready to start Dre Baldwin's segment, Dr. Janie.
Thank you so much, Ramon. And I absolutely love that, Dre. And I just love the work on your game, because that is absolutely phenomenal. Because whether we are in sports, whether we're in our career, whether it's in our life, we're constantly working on ourselves. And I am Dr. Janie Lacey, and you can find me on any of the social media outlets at Dr. Janie Lacey. And I'm happy to answer any of your comments.
Thanks, Dr. Janie Lacey. Listen, Dre Baldwin, the mic is all yours, brother. Listen, this is the Breakfast Champions Show. My name is Ramon Ray. You can find us live streaming on bwcdaily.com when it works, but definitely YouTube is going live. I'm going to turn the mic over to Dre Baldwin. Dre, feel free to give me verbal cues. You want anything me to do for you, but the mic is all yours, and we have Dre Baldwin work on your game until 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Dre, the mic is all yours.
Thank you, Ramon. Let me ask the audience a question. How many of you have ever been at an event, whether that was you were at church, whether you were at a conference, you were at a seminar, or you've been in school, anywhere where there was an audience listening and there was someone on the stage speaking, whatever stage, and for whatever reason, while the speaker was speaking, you kind of lost track, fell asleep while they were talking? Any of you ever had that happen in any space? If so, put the number 1 in the chat. If you've ever had that happen, somebody was talking and you just fell asleep and you just completely lost track or stopped paying attention to what the speaker was saying. Put a 1 in the chat if that's ever happened to you. Now, I can't see the actual chat, so I'm going to assume. Let me go over to the comment section. Maybe I can see it here. Okay, I can only see some comments in stream. I can't see the Clubhouse comments, but I'll check later. Secondly, how many of you have ever, you may not want to admit this one, you've been on stage talking and you noticed that some people in the audience weren't listening to you? They just stopped listening. They were not paying attention. They were dozing off, kind of going in another direction, looking around, checking their phones, talking to each other, but not listening to what you were saying. Put a 2 in the chat if you ever had that happen. Now, you might not want to admit that one. If you don't want to admit it, it's all right. And here's another one. How many of you has ever been on stage and you were given some kind of presentation? Again, this could be in a classroom. This could be at church. This could be at a Toastmasters meeting. This could be in a conference you're speaking at. And you fell asleep while you were speaking because you weren't even interested in the thing that you yourself was saying. Okay. Now, you may not know it, but it probably happens. Not the part about you falling asleep. You'll know that if you fell asleep. But this is what I'm going to talk about here today. The topic here today is why you need to tell stories, why you want to integrate story into your presentations. You want to integrate them into there endlessly and as much as possible. There's no such thing as telling too many stories anytime you're giving any kind of public presentation. I don't care if it's on Instagram, Facebook, StreamYard, YouTube. If you are speaking at a conference with 10,000 people, if you are speaking to your family at a family meeting with 5 people in the room, you are speaking anywhere in between that, you want to integrate story endlessly into everything that you do. Now, this topic, when I thought of this one, I'm thinking specifically about those of you who are brand builders, you are experts, you are thought leaders, anybody who is, if you're selling your intellectual property, that is taking your knowledge and your information and you're putting it out to the world so that other people can learn from it. And if you are the main attractive character of your business, i.e., when people think of your business, they think about you personally. And when they think about you personally, they're thinking about your business. You need to add story and put as much story as you possibly can and integrate it with the information, knowledge, tactics, strategies, etc., that you put into your presentations. I'm going to tell you why here today. And I'm going to share with you 1, 2, how many points we got? 3 points I'm going to share. Hopefully we get these all in the next 22 or fewer minutes. And then I'm sure Ramon will jump in and we'll have a little bit of conversation. So let me get right to this. Here's the first point. Remember that information, ladies and gentlemen, is forgettable. And let me prove it to you. How many of you here have a high school diploma or a college degree? Many of you have at least one of those, right? High school diploma, college degree. Put the number 3 in the chat if you have one of those. High school diploma, college degree. I would think most of you have one. Okay, let me ask you a question. All right. Explain to me, since you have a high school diploma, college degree, all of you had to take some type of math class, right? Explain to me how the quadratic formula works. Explain to me the 7 steps of the scientific method without Googling it. All right. Tell me something that you learned in history class in high school. All right. Explain to me tell me 10 items off of the, what do they call it? The periodic table. All right. Now, all of you have a degree, right? All you graduated. So name me some of those things. Most of you probably can't. And here's why. Even though you have a degree, which means you had to have passed that class and proved, quote unquote, that you knew all the information, but none of you has retained it over all the years. But can any of you tell me a story of something funny that happened in college, or something funny that happened in high school, or a story of something that occurred during those years that you still remember 10, 20, 30 years later? Our information is easily forgettable. We forget information. Even information that's really, really good, we forget it. I remember speaking at events myself, and I've spoken at a lot of events. And I remember once I was speaking at this event, it was in 2018. I had spoken at this event the year before. They didn't know me. They kind of put me in the new guy room, and I proved myself. And the feedback was so good, they asked me to come back and speak next year and give a keynote. So I was going to give a keynote at this event the following year. But I remember this first time that I was going to speak, they reached out. Any of you who speaks at like business types of conferences, you know that this always happens. About 30 days before the event happens, you get this email from the organizers of the event, or the person who's in charge of the logistics. You always get this email about a month out from the event. And anybody put a 4 in the chat, you ever got this email? Here's the email. We need your slides. Please send me your slides. So put a 4 in the chat if you ever gotten the "we need your slides" email about 30 days out from an event that you were speaking at. Just send us your slides. We need the slides. So they're emailing me, Dre, we need your slides. Please send all your slides. We need your slide deck so we can load it in and make sure that everything's ready for the event, and we can load it into the PowerPoint when it's time for you to get on stage and all of that. And I always have the same response when I get that email. I don't have any slides. There are no slides. So I told them there were no slides. And whenever I speak at events and don't use slides, people always comment on that. Like, Dre, I'm so glad you spoke without using slides. Or sometimes I even announce it and the audience will clap that I don't use slides. So any of you want a tip you can use next time you do a speaking gig, don't use slides. The audience will thank you for it. But anyway, I told them there was no slides. And the person wrote back to me. This is the event organizer person wrote back, well, Dre, we highly recommend that you use slides. Our audience loves slides. They need to see slides. They like to be able to visually follow what you're saying while you're talking. And I said, well, I don't use slides. I don't need slides. Now, mind you, they don't know me. All right, I'm the new guy. They don't really know me from anywhere. Only reason I had the speaking gigs because I had basically filled out a form as an absolute nobody to them. And this goes back and forth, me and the event planner. Eventually, they got the main guy who was running the whole event. He eventually jumps into the email chain, and he strongly suggests, that was his words, I strongly suggest you get at least a few slides, Dre, because our audience is highly technical. This is like a marketing conference. They really like to see slides, and I assured them, trust me, just let me do my presentation how I do it. I get into the room. They finally relent and allow me, quote unquote, to do my presentation with no slides. And I announced to them at the beginning of the presentation, when I'm in the room, I say, hey, there's no slides here. So all y'all used to looking at that projector, just watch me. And they laughed and they clapped. The whole point is people don't want your information. They're going to forget most of it anyway. These days, when you go to conferences, you see people with their slide presentations and people in the audience taking pictures of the slides. Let me ask you this question. All of you who take pictures of slides when you go to events, when's the last time you looked at those pictures? I'll take a sip of my water while you all think about that. When you go to events and the person has slides and you take pictures of the information on the slides, when's the last time you actually looked at the pictures that you took on your phone? See, the reason why I don't use slides when I give presentations is because I put enough story into my presentation that I don't need slides, and I don't want to have to remember all that information anyway. And you ain't going to remember it either. So it doesn't even matter, right? So when I give presentations, for example, if I'm giving a presentation on the stage, I just look at how much time I have and I think, or how many stories do I need to tell? That's how I formulate my presentations. So if I have an hour to give a presentation, I figure that's going to be, I'm going to tell 5 stories. So and I'll leave some time for Q&A. Let's say about 10 minutes for Q&A. So it's story number 1. And I think about my points. What are the points that I want to share? And then what's a story that matches that point? And it might be my story, it might be somebody else's story. It may be just an anecdote that I want to share. But I think story, point, application. That's how I give my presentations. I tell you the story, so I grab your attention. Then I tell you the point of why I told you the story. Then I give you the application of it. But the story takes up the majority of the space. And I tell other people this when they give presentations as well, because the last thing you want to do is have to cram your mind with a whole bunch of information that, again, is going to be hard for you to remember. It's going to be boring for the audience to receive. People remember story. We are wired to remember it. That's why you want to use more story than you use information in any presentation. So I want to be engaging throughout. And I tell the audience, look, don't look at the screen. Look at me. All right. I'm the person. I came here so you can watch me. Don't come here to look at the slides. So as I've shared on, for example, I have a podcast. I had over 2,000 episodes of my podcast. Even the everyday listeners can't recall 99% of the stuff that I've shared. And those of you watching on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, 99% of the stuff I've ever shared, you don't remember it. But when I tell a story, people always remember that, even if you only hear it once or twice, because human beings are wired to follow narrative. We are wired to follow stories. All right, what is the oldest book that we know of in the world? Is the Bible. And what is the Bible? The Bible is a series of stories that have been handed down, passed down, and accepted for centuries. Why? Because it's a story. If the Bible was a book full of information, you wouldn't remember it, but you will remember a story. Everybody remembers a narrative, and we can connect a story to information. So anytime you need to share information with an audience, connected to a story is much easier for them to recall it and retain it and receive it. All right. That's why you need to know your story. And even personally, you need to know your story, brand builders, influencers, those of you who are the main person in your organization. You need to know your story. You need to be telling it over and over and over again, because that's what people will connect to. When people connect to your story, they will accept your information. Say that again. When people connect to your story, they will accept your information. You want to build an audience. What you need to do is tell them your story. Tell them why you exist. Why are you here in the marketplace? Why are you doing what you do? When people connect with that, then they'll say, okay, now that I connect with this person, now I understand why they're doing what they do. Because we need a reason. We need to understand the why behind somebody's actions. When we understand that why, we will follow that person to the ends of the earth with whatever information that they put out, because we connected with their reason. And the story tells people your reason for existing in the marketplace. You want people to connect with you as a person, then they'll take in your information. So tell your story until you are tired of telling it, and then tell it some more. Tell your story till you're tired of telling it, and then tell it some more. And I tell audiences, you should be able to tell your story in increments of 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and an hour. So if you go on someone's podcast and they say, give us a little bit of your background, that's maybe the 2-minute version. If you are in the elevator, you might need a 30-second version. If you're giving a keynote, you might need the 15-minute version. But you need to be able to tell your story in increments of different lengths and be able to do it over and over and over again. And don't stop. Keep telling that story, because that's what causes people to connect with you. Even if they heard it before, they want to hear it again. Point number 2. What your story does is it creates an emotional connection and allows your audience to connect with you. I just said that. The good thing about all of us being human and having a story is that none of us has a perfect life. All right, anybody here got a perfect life? Put the number 0 in the chat if you got a perfect life. All right, I don't think I'm going to see any zeros. All right, we all have a story, and we all have had our ups and downs. We've all had our challenges. We've all been in situations in life where it looked like things weren't working, and then things were working, and then they were not working. And we all been in the opposite situation. But like stuff wasn't working, then we figured it out and we made it work. We've all done that. And the good news for all of that is that everybody who is listening to you has dealt with those things. This is especially important for those of you who are in elevated positions. And if you're standing on a stage in front of an audience, you are literally in an elevated position. And when you're in that elevated position, one thing that you should hold your elevated position, because it kind of holds your frame of being the expert or the keynote or the information holder who's up there giving people what they need. At the same time, the audience has to be able to relate to you. You want them to respect you, but they also have to relate to you. They respect your accomplishments. They can see your bio. They can read it on the little website, and they saw your blurb in the program for the event that they're at. But also, you got to relate to the audience, because if you're standing up on the stage and telling the audience how great you are, but you don't tell them how you've ever been in the seat that they're in, they can't relate to you. And when people can't relate to you, then they will not listen to you. They will not receive what they can't. We cannot receive what we cannot relate to. That's why it's so important that an audience relates to you. And that's why you tell your story, not just your information. We don't relate to information. We receive information. We can consume information. We easily forget information, but we always relate to the story. So you tell your story to let the audience know, listen, I know what it feels like to be in the seat that you're in. Let me tell you how I got from the seat that you're in to the stage that I'm on. And that's when you tell your story. And during that process, you mix in the information. Everybody get what I'm saying? So you want to put this all in together in one big kind of gumbo. Let's put it that way. All right. And you want the audience to know you've dealt with the same things that they dealt with, maybe in a different way, but they can relate to you because they've gone through the same emotions and feelings that you have. And this is where information, comes up short. See, information is completely objective. It is impartial. It has no emotion in it. There's no humanity in information. But when you tell your story, people can understand. They can relate to what? the emotions and the feelings that you went through. And when you tell your story, they understand, no okra in the gumbo. All right, cool. They can understand why you did what you did. They can relate to the feeling, and that's what causes the connection. Remember, everybody, any of you who's ever taken a sales course or learned anything about sales, we all know the saying, what? Facts tell, stories sell. And people make decisions based on emotion, and we come up with logical justification. So it's not that the information does not matter. Information does matter. You have to give people enough information to justify an emotional decision, but the emotion is what triggers people to action. And when you tell your story and allow people to relate to you, that emotion moves them to the action of connecting with you. And when someone's connected to you, it's much easier to influence or persuade someone when they're connected to you emotionally than if there is no emotional connection. Can we all agree with that? Think about that. And you'll notice that it happens all the time in your own life, in your past. Not even now, you're hearing this and maybe thinking about it in a different way, but this has always happened in your life. Even when someone moves you to action, when there's an emotional connection, it's much easier for them to move you to action than when there is not an emotional connection. All right, that's why I tell stories all the time to illustrate the points that I share. Even if I'm telling somebody else's story, I will tell a story that happened to someone else because it allows me, it tethers the information to the story, and it's much easier for that information to carry on when it's connected to a story. Point number 3, as I already said, facts tell, stories sell. So since you know this, you should be using the thing that sells all the time, because all of you, in case you didn't know, all of us are salespeople. Everybody's a salesperson. You're either good at it or you're bad at it, but we are all salespeople. Anytime you're trying to influence or persuade another human being to do anything, you are selling. And that includes yourself. Number one person you got to sell is the person in the mirror. So if you want to move people to action, you want to be more influential, you would like to be more persuasive, start using more stories. It doesn't have to be your story. It can be somebody else's story. It can be an anecdote. It can be a small little thing that you saw or heard. It can be something that happened to you, but you always want to be telling stories because, again, this is what people are wired to connect with, not your information. You're better off getting people to feel your story and relate to you than you are getting people to agree with your points logically. Should I say that one again? You are better off getting people to feel your story and relate to you and connect with you emotionally than you are getting them to agree with you logically, even if you have amazing logical information that is perfectly rational and it makes perfect sense and it's completely objective and it is indisputable. How many of you have ever presented information like that to an audience of people or even one person and you were unable to persuade them to action? Put the number 6 in the chat if you have ever had that happen. You gave someone perfectly logical, rational, objective, factual, 100% indisputable. You cannot challenge this information. It was 100% perfect, and they still did not do what you wanted them to do. I think all of us have had that experience. Why? Because information does not move people to action. What moves people to action is a connection and a story. That's why the story matters so much. So even if you are like me, a very analytical and rational thinker and a very logical person, logical to a fault, I have been accused of being, you still need to use story. You still need to use story because story is what works. And over here at Work on Your Game, we are in the performance and results based business, which means we do what produces results, not what we're naturally inclined to do or what we prefer doing. We do what works, even if that means going against the grain of what we like. And that's what this is all about, is producing results, because story builds the connection. Somebody can agree with your information, but they can get that same information or better information somewhere else. Our information can be duplicated, copied, stolen, hacked. Anybody can take your information and go use it somewhere else, but nobody can take your story. Your story is what you own. And that is the most important part of your business. And you need to be telling it over and over and over and over and over again, because that's what's going to bring people into your world. And that's what keeps people in your world, is the story. It is not your information. Somebody can copy your information and say the same thing you said yesterday, tomorrow on their platform, and nobody know that they stole it from you, but nobody can steal your story. So when somebody connects with your story, they will stick around long after the information is not even necessary anymore. And any of you in the thought leader space, we all kind of understand this. After someone's been in your world for about a year or two, they pretty much got it. They pretty much got everything you got to say. Everything you have to offer, they got it. All right, they know, they understand. Why do they stick around? They don't stick around because you're going to come up with some brand new information that you pull out of your hat. They stick around because they're connected to you emotionally. And what connects people emotionally is not the brilliance of your information. It is the value of the story and the emotional connection that they have with you. And if you don't know what it is, guess what? Ask them. They'll tell you. If they're giving you money, they will give you information. They'll tell you why they're connected with you. So let me recap these points real quick. And then Ramon, I guess you'll jump back on. We have a little banter here, not barter, but banter. And we're talking why to tell your story endlessly. Number one, information is forgettable. They always ask me when I speak at events, give me your slides. I say, there ain't no slides. There are no slides. I don't use slides when I speak. Number two, your story connects emotional connection and allows your audience to connect with you. That is what keeps people around. It is not because they believe you're a genius. You are a genius, but that's not why they're sticking around. Number three, facts tell, stories sell. You want to influence and persuade people, give them stories. Do not give them facts. Facts do not move people to action. We've all probably seen that over the last few years in society. Facts alone will not move people to do anything, but story will. All that said, Ramon, back to you.
Dre, man, what a fantastic segment on the Clubhouse Twitter side or Twitter Spaces side. Again, just to let everybody know, we're watching this live. This is the new BWC Daily Show. Stars Tina, I'm going to bring you up if you're ready. Give me a thumbs up. Here we go. But if you're watching this on the BWCDaily.com side, thank you. Many people are watching this on YouTube, our brand new YouTube channel. We'll be having live programming like this, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on video, and then we'll continue on Clubhouse, 9 a.m. and onwards. Dre Baldwin just dropped science on us. Tina, I'm going to ask you to comment on that in 1 second. Storytelling and speaking and the power of communication. But I just want to prompt, if you're on the Clubhouse side, get ready. We want to come to you. We got about 6 minutes to go before we're bringing up Monica Ricky on the Clubhouse side and Twitter Spaces side. You in the audio, you are part of our live audience. You are part of the show. If you're not here, Dre's just talking to himself and me, and that gets kind of boring and weird. So, Tina, real quick, what do you think of what Dre said? And then we'll see who wants to chat on the Clubhouse side or our Twitter Spaces side. Tina, all you.
Yes, I definitely agree with the storytelling. At least for me, it helps me understand the conversation or the purpose of what you're trying to send to someone. So for example, if you're teaching someone perseverance and you're telling them a story of how you persevered, you can see it and you can feel it. Plus, it makes it a lot easier when you're talking in public. It's just natural flow. Like, yeah, I remember when I did this, and you get a little more animated and you get a little more excited. So sharing stories is definitely important. Plus, I believe when you share your story, you're releasing if there's pain, you're releasing the happiness, and we have to sometimes just release certain things. So it's very good to share a story.
I love that. I'm going to ask you all again because we're experimenting. This is live. But may I jump in? Because I want to test this. But let me know, Dre, I'll ask you and then Tina. Can I put a 30-second commercial break? Is it like not the right moment, or can I try that now?
Great. Let's go.
Okay, good. I just want to, experimenting and testing, because when we go big, we have to do it, right? When I'm dropping, anyway, let me just stop that. But okay, so Clubhouse side and Twitter Spaces side, get ready. We want to jump in with your questions, your comments for Dre Baldwin. But I just want to test here and run a sponsor. We'll do it from our friends at Zoho. And again, so we'll do it from our friends at Zoho and see what happens. Here we go.
He's been around the world, but he desires more. He's seen it all. It's always what you think's tough. Finance right there all the time.
With over 40 fully integrated applications, you won't be able to contain your excitement either. Run your entire business with Zoho One, the operating system for business.
And what I realized, Dre and Tina, as I was running this, is that this was built for viewers only. Do you notice that? So again, as we evolve and learn, there could have been, for this, we need audio running the whole time. But all right, let me pause. Clubhouse side or Twitter Spaces side, just take your mic off and just say your name if you wish. Dre and Tina, I can carry this, but this is your moment to talk to Dre Baldwin, athlete. You can find him more at work on yourgameuniversity.com. Let me now shut up for 5 seconds and see who wants to join in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, cool.
Jump in about your commercials. I loved the commercials, and I don't know if you know, I have another superpower. So I've got that energy superpower. I also have a superpower to see into the future. And the future for BWC Daily.com, I see in airports, I see in gyms, I see in local restaurants. What if there's someone who's watching and they're like, hey, I want a commercial. Can regular people have commercials in here?
Regular people can have commercials. You can just email me at Ramon@BWCDaily.com. Ramon@BWCDaily.com. Thank you, Tina. Dre Baldwin, back to you. What did you when you think of storytelling, let me just tell you this, Dre. I'll do this and then we'll jump in. We'll see what you say to Dre. My challenge has been, you've been over, what was the word you used? Over logical. My challenge, Dre, I've not used stories a lot. Not that I poo-hooed them a lot, but I don't know. I just didn't use it. I'm more of a, I'm very engaging and all that. Some of you've heard me for sure, but I didn't tell enough stories. I thought, you know, the Les Browns and other people in the world like, what does Les Brown know? He tells stories all day. What does he know? And so that was but I'm using them more. Now, I'm not using them a lot, Dre, because I'm still sticking to, I'm like a bullet point person, 10 ways to, 5 ways to. That's me. That's how I tell stories with fun and humor. But I am learning to set it up more because I think the connectivity are right. But Dre, respond to that Ramon not doing it enough, and then Tina, and then Dre, you'll close us out. Go ahead, Dre.
Yeah, so the stories are like the glue that kind of puts the information together. So that's why the stories are so valuable, even when you give a point, because I'm sure with your experience in business, Ramon, even when you have a point, there's usually a little anecdote or a story, even if it wasn't your story, it could be somebody else's that will allow people to make sense of it, because sometimes information go over people's heads. And I tell people, especially people in the intellectual property space, is you should never overestimate the intelligence of your audience. You shouldn't expect them to understand what you understand. So you got to kind of spoon feed things to people. Everybody can understand a story. Not everybody understands information. And sometimes we, as experts, assume that people understand what the level that we're talking at, and sometimes they don't. But the story makes it accessible for everybody. That's why the story matters so much.
Tina, what do you think?
I think when it comes to personal stories, it's great because it gives people a little peek, a little insight into your life. Like when you shared a story once about your wife you got an event and you had to speak and they paid for all this stuff. It's like, wow. So it's like we get to see a little bit into your life. So that's why I think personal stories are great, because it lets people know a little bit who you are and they feel as if they're a part of your life because they see you every day. It's like, where's your coffee, Ramon? You notice I keep asking you, right? Where's the coffee? I'm waiting for the, like, we want to be a part of you.
The cup is empty. Dre Baldwin Carey is out here. Give us any last minute thoughts. And Monica, when you're good, let me know. Give me a thumbs up, Monica, so I can pull you on camera. But Dre, give us any last minute comments or thoughts here today, as you talked about from Work on Your Game University. I'm guessing these are principles people can find out at Work on Your Game University. Dre?
Yeah. So as I said, everybody keep telling your story. Come up with different ways to tell your story. Tell your story over and over again. Tell it until you get tired of telling it, and then tell it a whole bunch more. Your audience does not get tired of hearing. Nobody gets tired of hearing a good story. So any of you have kids, so you tell your kids a nighttime story, they want to hear the same story over and over and over again. Adults are the same thing. We just got older and sometimes a little bit fatter and sometimes a little bit uglier, but we still want stories. All right. So tell your story over and over and over again. Replace some of that information with story. And anybody wants to learn more with me, I put my daily motivation text number in the chat, and then it's workonyourgameuniversity.com is the other place that you can take your next step with me. And that's that.
I would love it, Dre. I would love to hear a show from you, Dre, like how you do all the things. And Monica, good. I'm going to pull Monica right now to join us. And Dre, everybody got a few more seconds. Again, I always acknowledge. Let me ask that. Good, because we're live broadcast. For all I know, Dre got like his driver outside waiting to take him to, I don't know, some meeting.
No, I'll stick around for a minute.
Okay, good. Yeah, but I think it's so important, Dre. And what I'd love to know, Dre, is that Monica and Tina, you can just vote, raise your hands no matter what I say. Would you like to get a segment from Dre about all the systems and how he does thousands of podcasts, thousands of content? I'm on his list, his email newsletter, his website. I have the Work on Your Game podcast here. Let me do this. I'm not going to share it on live screen, but amazing. So, Dre, we're voting right now. Are we voting? Let's vote. Okay, good. Dre, yeah, the vote's in. You got to do a segment like all your stuff, how you do all this stuff.
All right, sure. Maybe next week.
I appreciate it. Dre Baldwin, again, thank you so much. Work on Your Game University. Thanks so much for being here, Dre, with us. Appreciate it, and blessings to your baby. See you later, brother.
Thank you.
Everybody, that was the amazing Dre Baldwin. We have Monica coming up next. Stars Tina, what do you think Monica's going to talk about? Do you think she's going to like bring it and drop fire at Stars Tina? What do you think?
I love Monica's segment. I've got my notebook and pen here. If you see me going off camera, it's because I got to get all the notes, but we can go online. So she's bringing it. I don't know what she's talking about. Mindset, exercise, fitness, fashion. I don't know, but I'm all here for it.
I love it. Monica, what do you have in store for us today? Give us a 2-second preview. And again, Breakfast of Champions, Twitter Spaces people, we're going to be bringing you in towards the